This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vasugi and Mikey Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mikey Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash Vasugi. And as you're listening to this right now, it may be sometime after July 1st, which means that we're in the last half of 2023. Hard to believe, but what we're going to talk about today is how to make this last half of the year your best half of the year. So, Arash, I know you've got lots of suggestions on this and something you're super passionate about. Where would you like to start?
You know, I want everyone to think about your first 6 months. And whenever you're listening to this, look at your first 6 months of 2023 as we're recording this. And I want you to look at your results. Are those the results you want? And then I want to look back to January 1st. And if you did this properly, you set up 2023 sometime in November. And but let's look at your first 6 months and ask yourself, am I doing the things that I committed to doing? Am I creating the results? How are my results? If I go on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say it was an 8. Okay. Are you happy with the 8? Were you unrealistic and relentless over the first 6 months? See, I think being realistic is a very reckless idea. And too many people are letting the outside tell them, oh, you've got to be realistic. No, you want to be unrealistic. And you want to stretch yourself. So ask yourself, look at your behaviors. Look at maybe at a health goal, maybe at a business goal. And were you letting, quote unquote, the economy dictate, dictate this relaxation in your standard? You want to start looking at it because, I think I shared it here. I love this quote by Robin Sharma. He says, your day is your year in miniature. So you're like, look at the 6 months. It's like your year in miniature. And what we want to do is I want you to think about it. It's December 31st or sooner, and you created the best 6 months of your life. What 3 or 4 things would have had to happen to make this the best 6 months of your life? And you want to write those down. And I think that is the starting point. You start from the end. And that's what I want us, Mike, to help people create the best 6 months of their life.
Absolutely. Now, whenever you look at the first 6 months of the year, are you going to look at your results first, or are you going to look at your behaviors first? So do you look at the results and say, okay, here's what I've achieved or haven't achieved? Or do you look at, how did I do on my morning routine? How did I do on my evening routine? How did I do on my different processes and my thinking, my overall conditioning? Which one are you looking at first? And is there a specific way to go about that?
I always look at the result first, because the results always will tell me my behaviors. The results will tell me my standard. Then I'll go and look at the results, good, bad, or indifferent. But I don't let it control me. I'm observing it. There's years where my first 6 months weren't great. There's other years they've been phenomenal. And when they weren't great, I was like, okay, you've got to put your foot on the gas. So I always start with the results, and I go look at my commitment level first. And I say, how committed have I been? Have I been tapping out a lot? Have I been stopping? Have I been letting an adversity control my mind? Have I been disciplined? Have I been stretching? Your ability to stretch is going to create your life. Have I been building new beliefs? Have I been building empowering beliefs? Or do I have the same, look at a year ago, not just 6 months? Am I on the hamster wheel doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results? Then I would look at my processes. How great was I at my processes? How was my morning routine? How was my installation process of building my goal into a belief? How was my process in the evening? How much have I been practicing my craft? How am I leading my company? How am I leading the people that I'm working with? And I would take a good look at that, because that will tell me where my opportunity is.
And how specific are you going to get about game planning the last 6 months of the year? So you observe where you're at, you observe the first 6 months, And then how are you mapping out and making a plan of action for your next 6 months?
Well, the first thing would do what I said. I always say, if this is going to be the best 6 months of my life, what 3 or 4 things would have had to happen? Mm-hmm. Then I reverse engineer those 3 to 4 things. And I'll say, okay, for these 3 to 4 things that would happen, what would I have to accomplish week to week? Where would my daily goals be? We've never really got in yet to daily goals. Daily goals are so important. See, I'm never worried about 6 months. I'm focused on today. And today, if I'm so committed to my daily goal, if I take care of the day, the weeks will be taken care of. And if I take care of the week, the month will be taken care of. If I take care of the month, the quarter will be taken care of. So I make everything smaller. So I focus on the minute and focus on what I can control, but living from the end, living from the beliefs and standards of the behaviors that I would have achieved if I made the next 6 months. And then I work backwards and reverse engineer it.
Okay, that's really helpful. Now, there's going to be people in 2 camps listening to this. They've been making progress on their goal, or they haven't been making progress on their goal. There's not a whole lot of gray area in between there. Maybe you don't have a goal would be the other option. But would you attack the last 6 months differently based on which of those camps you're in, or is it the same no matter what?
It's the same no matter what. Like, even the people who are making progress, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you saying you're making progress, or are you really making progress? A lot of people are not honest with themselves. So we've got to get really honest with ourselves. I have people come to me and they say, oh, it works for you, but not in your industry, but not my industry. And I laugh about it because I work with people in every industry. Mm-hmm. And it works for every single person who operates it. But what has to happen is we've got to build an enormous image of ourselves, not from arrogance, but from understanding, because we're never going to outperform our image. You all want to really lock this idea in. Your business and income is never going to surpass your identity. So you got to lock in on that first. So then we look at our identity and say, over the next 6 months, where do I want my identity to be in 6 months? And we've got to understand your identity is based on your successes and failures. That's how your identity is based. So it's going to be based on your actions. But before we can get it, we've got to create for the next 6 months the perfect image you would have for yourself as a leader. The perfect image you would have yourself as influencing your team by leading by example. The perfect influence is by stretching yourself where nobody sees it but you. But your example is so contagious because your resonance changes. Mm-hmm. And that's why the half yearly mark is so important to me, because it'll give me an honest assessment of what I've done. It's an honest assessment. The results always tell the truth. They don't sometimes tell the truth. They always tell the truth. And over a 6-month period, it's a long enough time to get you to understand what you're doing. Look at your environment over the next 6 months. Maybe you want specialized direction with a mentor. Well, you find that mentor and you do exactly what they say to the letter. So you can look at it in any area of your life. If you want to get healthy, hire a trainer and a nutritionist, not just a trainer. Set yourself up if that's important to you. See, what we have to do is we've got to master ourselves. And this becomes so empowering because think about this, Mike. When you feel the best, it's when you're doing the little things, the little disciplines. Success is not hard. It's the little disciplines compounded over time. And I hope right now I'm talking to somebody who's listening to this, who is like, you know what? I've been screwing around. I've been stopping, and I'm done with it. I made a definite decision, and I'm inspirationally dissatisfied that I'm going after what I want. I don't care what anybody in my environment says. I'm going to go show myself what I'm capable of. And then they start lighting this spark in them. And that spark lights a fire. And they really are so focused on their definite goals over the next 6 months. And they go all in. That's what I want people to understand. Once you go all in and you're so convicted to your vision. See, I never let circumstances anymore control me because the circumstances is not the deal. My vision is the deal. how passionate I am for where I want to go is what I focus on. And that's what I encourage everyone to focus on over the next 6 months.
I love that so much. And really quickly, we don't do ads on our show yet, but you consider this a little ad because Raj just mentioned finding a mentor for the last 6 months of the year. And if you're listening to our podcast thinking, Raj sounds like the perfect mentor for me, we've got several coaching options at Voss Coaching Co. that you can look into. Just go to vosscoachingco.com and click on coaching and submit a form. You'll talk to one of our coaches about what we do offer. Okay, back to this episode. Raj, this is something that we are super passionate about here, obviously. And so you just went over making an irrevocable, committed decision that you're going to have the best 6 months of the year. And then what comes next? Is it consistency? Is it accountability? Is it what's right after that?
Once you make the decision, now you've got to do the installation process with your beliefs. So your processes. On a previous episode, we talked about morning, evening routines. And so you start building the belief. See, a great question we can ask ourselves. Am I programmed right now for this being the best 6 months of my life? And let's say the answer is no. Let's say the first 6 months shows me that answer is no. Well, now you want to start installing that belief process. No one's going to get you to believe it until you believe it. How you believe it is you accept the idea. Assumption means fact. So you assume and you come from the end. And now every 3 hours, you literally put an alarm on your phone and you are repeating for 2 minutes your most important want, something you want more than anything else. Well, the repetition of doing that is going to create the belief. You're rewiring yourself. And once it's wired, it has to happen by law. And so the next step is rewiring those beliefs as part of you, and you make it part of your identity. See, Mike, the interesting thing is abundance is an enormous idea. See, most people, I want everybody to look at your world. Is it abundant or is it in between or is it lack? When I'm talking to you right now, what you're focused on. All you have to do is a scan of this week. And you'll be like, oh, I was focused on lack or I was focused on abundance. And then if we want to create abundance, because it's everywhere, you start looking for abundance in the world. You'll look. I was telling a story, I don't know on which forum I was on, but I was walking my dogs around my neighborhood and I saw this football field in this backyard. I took them on a different area and there's lights and I hop over the fence and look over and there's a full football field. And this person's backyard. And I said, that's an example of abundance. Like they're creating the environment they want. But then what we have to do to create abundance is we've got to create a significant paradigm of ourselves. Mm-hmm. See, 95% of our day is run by our program. Is your program setting you up to win? And we want to ask ourselves. Then we say, okay, what part of my program would really set me up to win? I know for me, it's always attitude, image, standard, like right away, like in discipline. Right away, those are parts that I have to have. And then I say, am I stretching myself on a daily basis? Or am I monotonous, just doing things over and over again with no energy? I'm just doing things to check a box. And I want you to see yourself already as a goal achiever, even if you haven't achieved goals this year. I want you from this moment, say, I'm a goal achiever. And you keep repeating that. I am a goal achiever. Well, it's going to create belief. And then you build a strong image and attitude over the next 6 months. You say, I'm going to be the most positive person I know. I am only looking for the good in everything. See the good in everything. You get cut off, say, oh, that was awesome. That felt really good. Like even when things are not going good, you see the good in it because there's an equivalent seed of good in everything that's not working for us. And then you build such great discipline. It's going to take, for the next 6 months, to be the best 6 months, you're going to need a great deal of discipline. Mm-hmm. And what do we need to eliminate? We need to eliminate doubt. We need to eliminate excuses. We need to eliminate gossip. You may need to change your environment. And when you're around people who are A+ performers, come in with 3 to 6 really thought out questions that you have in your back pocket. So when you have that opportunity, you're picking their brain. You're constantly picking their brain. I was talking to my cousin My cousin has a real estate company in the Bay Area called Remax. And I told him, I said, I can really see what you're doing. You're doing so much good. You have 700 plus agents. Look at the good you're doing. And I told him, I said, I'm telling you right now, you don't need all 700 to be superstars, but you want to sprint with the people who are the stars. And then they're going to be an example, because the people who are lower level, who may be making a few sales a month, are going to start looking at the people who are mid, who are now jumping up. And I said, that example, but you go with the superstars. Like if you have a business, look at your team and you sprint with 2 or 3 stars and you say, listen, I want to know what you want. I'm going to help you do it. I'm going to put so much energy into your goal, because as you do that as a leader, the more you help others achieve their goals, you're going to achieve your goals. And what you're doing is you're building a culture that is a kick-ass culture. You want your company to be like, oh my God, I want to work with them. I want to refer business to them. And you do, that's attitude, what I'm talking about. Leadership is an attitude. It's a mindset. And we have it. And if your results are not going good, just say, this is part of the process of me growing. This will change. We always want to, these next 6 months, I want everyone to play their life to win, not to lose. I want you to play it to win. And as you do that, it's going to take you to where you want to go.
Raj, I also want you to talk about how you may be this close. And so over the next 6 months, there's going to be lots of times where obstacles come up and you may think, oh, I'm off track, or I want to give up, or I want to go in a different direction because I'm just not getting where I want to be yet. Talk about that, having that perseverance to stay the course and to keep going.
This is kind of like what I was saying earlier about your vision. Your vision is your driving force, not the results. The results, we're aware of them, so we look at them and it gives us, okay, what we need to course correct. Or if we need to build perseverance, like you have to build grit. Angela Duckworth wrote one of my favorite books, Grit. And she did a study about all successful people. The one thing in common of the most successful people is grit. Because we want to remember this, our 5 senses are going to be the last part of us that experience our goal. So the true trailblazers are seeing and speaking in existence to what they want. See, most people, everybody dreams at night. Very few people dream during the day. They're reacting during the day. You want to dream during the day. You want to fuse yourself only thinking of the person you already are an hour after you achieve that goal. That's a dream. You want to speak like that person, because winning is a language. Look at your language. Are you demanding what you want? Or are you wishing or hoping? I want you to demand it. I want you to understand if one person can do it, you could do it. And so you start building these all together, and you don't have to do it all at once. You say, okay, these are the 3 to 4 things that I am going to achieve over the next 6 months. And you come from that. And then you say, what are the behaviors that I would need to make part of my identity? Then you work on those. And then you do the every 3 hours. You become so obsessed with it. And you become obsessed with your goal over the next 6 months. You have a healthy obsession and you make a decision. See, nothing moves without decision. You have to decide that this is where you're going. And when the circumstances tell you no, say, I don't care about the circumstances. I'm just going to keep going and persevering. And then you cultivate your imagination. You build the image. You see yourself all day long. And then you gradually are going to attract everything that is essential for the fulfillment of making the next 6 months the best 6 months.
So good. All right. You just mentioned fusing, which I think is something we haven't talked about on the podcast yet. So I want you to talk about what is fusing.
It's becoming one with it. If you're in a great relationship with a friend or a spouse, think about it. You're one with them. When you're one with somebody, then you're in sync. Like Mike, you and I are always in sync. Mm-hmm. And like we're fused together. My wife and I are always in sync. And like I'm one with her. Like we don't have to even, we know what each other is thinking. Well, your goal, you have to be one with. You can't be separate from it. I watch so many people say, no, I'm doing all the right things. And they're talking away from their goal. They're saying, well, this is what's happening. You're not fused with it. When I talk about my goal and it's not here yet, I go, I know what I'm doing. I'm already in my mind. It's already here. See, it's already got to be finished in your mind. When you're selling, before you ever sell a prospect, you've already sold them in your mind, and now you're just focused on them. We want to do that with our goals. You've got to sell yourself on the idea that the goal is done. See, if we understand creation is already finished, your goal is already here. It's not sometimes going to be here, it's already here. Our job, like Einstein said, is to match the frequency. How do you match the frequency? You live up there with your imagination, and then all day long, you do the actions of that person. I'm not telling you to just sit with your eyes closed and do nothing. No, you have to take action, and you want to take inspired action. You want to get in the spirit of it. And if you're sitting there, you have low energy, you are mechanical, you're overthinking, you are so separate from your goal. I will tell you that right now. When you're one with your goal, you don't even care about the how. Like, the how does not matter. The only thing that matters is this is where I'm going no matter what. And that's all you think about.
So good. All right, Raj, as always, we like to end with a couple of very specific action steps. So can we get into that real quick?
I gave you throughout the call, several action steps to do. First, look at where you are. That's going to tell you a story of what behaviors to shift. Number 2, write out on paper your 3 to 4 non-negotiables. If this was going to be the best 6 months of your life, what would those results be? And remind yourself, nothing succeeds like success. The more you succeed, the more you want to succeed. The more you're fulfilled, the more you want to be fulfilled. And constantly activate your success mechanism. Go look at your past and only look at where you've succeeded and anchor that feeling. Okay, that's going to create confidence. And do the work, do the disciplines. My mentor used to always tell me there's a price to pay to create the life you want. And that price is whatever it demands. And that demanding is what I consider the most important, the power of 5. That means making definite decisions. Every day you're recommitting with your decision. You are accepting and rejecting ideas like a master. Like, you have a PhD in accepting and rejecting ideas. From this moment on, you make a decision. I'm not accepting anything that is not what I said, those 3 to 4 things that I'm going to achieve. Then you're operating with the most positive mental attitude. You're stretching yourself. Your attitude is contagious. And if you have negative people in your environment, you just walk away. You say, I'm going to surround myself with A+ performers. And then you're building a standard. See, standard is so important. Standard always wins. And you raise your standard every day. What standard does is it creates empowering belief after belief. That's what your standard does. And don't have a conditional standard. Look over the last 6 months and ask yourself, what was my standard? Was I taking action? Am I overthinking? Am I always planning to plan? The biggest fallacy is we think we have all this time in the world. We don't have all this time in the world. We've got to do it now. Make doing it now part of your next 6 months. Everything you do, you trust your instinct, because your instinct is so powerful. And then you're going to build a significant image of yourself. And I will tell you, I really want you to make a decision that this is going to be the best 6 months of your life. I don't care what's going on. It does not matter. You will manipulate the energy, because that's what goal achievement is. It's manipulating energy. It's going from an energy down here to building an energy much higher. And you're constantly manipulating energy. So you want to understand that this is going to be the next 6 months of your life. And when you do that, you're going to shift everything in your favor.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Raj. Thank you for listening to another episode of the 7-Figure Standard podcast. Go ahead and leave us a rating and review. Share this podcast with your friends and family, and we'll see you next week for another episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.